It was declared an accident within weeks, yet critical evidence was destroyed. Key witnesses contradicted each other, and the most dangerous design choice was never criminally examined. 36 people died, but the greater failure was institutional. Decisions made long before the flames appeared ensured that when something went wrong, there would be no recovery, no escape, and no accountability. What remains unsettled is not how fast the airship burned, but why the risk was accepted at all, and whether the disaster was the result of error, negligence, or something deliberately ignored. The victims were not anonymous passengers swept up in spectacle. They were crew members who had signed on to a machine already known to be hazardous, and travelers who trusted that repeated, successful crossings meant safety had been solved. The crew lived inside the structure they maintained. They slept beneath hydrogen cells, worked beside electrical systems, and followed procedures designed to manage a gas that could not be smelled, seen, or safely contained once released. The senior officers were experienced airshipmen. Several had survived earlier hydrogen-related incidents. They knew static discharge was a known danger. They knew the ship's skin was treated with flammable compounds to reduce weight and improve aerodynamic performance. They also knew that alternative lifting gas existed, helium, but was unavailable due to export restrictions and political refusal to redesign the fleet around it. Passengers were told the airship was safe because it had already completed dozens of crossings. Safety was framed statistically, not mechanically. There was no meaningful discussion of what would happen if ignition occurred near the gas cells. There was no evacuation strategy beyond reaching the ground intact. Survival depended entirely on the assumption that failure would never happen. Multiple witnesses, including crew members positioned inside the ship, later reported unusual vibrations during these maneuvers. Some described a sharp jolt. Others noted a loss of rigidity in the aft section. Several reported hearing a muffled tearing sound seconds before the fire appeared. What matters is where the fire started. Photographic and film evidence. Frame-by-frame analysis conducted decades later consistently shows initial flame appearing near the upper rear portion of the airship, close to the gas cells, not along the skin, where external ignition would be expected first. This contradicts early explanations that focused on surface ignition alone. Within seconds, hydrogen ignited across multiple cells. The fire spread upward and forward faster than human reaction time. The structure failed almost immediately. The ship did not explode. It burned rapidly and asymmetrically, collapsing as buoyancy was lost. Some passengers survived by jumping from relatively low heights once the nose touched the ground. Many crew members inside the hull had no such chance. Several were trapped as the internal walkways collapsed. The survival rate varied drastically based on position, not preparation. The official investigation began immediately, but its scope was narrow from the start. Authorities focused on identifying an ignition source rather than interrogating the broader system that made ignition catastrophic. Static electricity became the dominant explanation early on, not because it was conclusively proven, but because it aligned with existing assumptions and avoided politically sensitive conclusions. Static discharge was plausible. The airship had accumulated electrical charge during flight. Landing lines could have provided a grounding path. Differences in electrical potential could have created a spark. But plausibility is not proof. Investigators faced immediate constraints. Much of the wreckage was consumed by fire. What remained was cleared rapidly. Structural components were removed. The fabric covering, the most critical material for understanding flame propagation, was largely destroyed or discarded. No comprehensive chemical analysis of the skin's coating was conducted at the time. Witness testimony was inconsistent, but patterns emerged that were not fully addressed. Several observers reported seeing a bluish glow or brush discharge near the rear before ignition, suggesting electrical phenomena inside or near the gas cells rather than on the exterior. Others reported flame emerging from within the structure, not spreading inward from the surface. Sabotage was considered, but dismissed quickly. Investigators examined political motives, labor disputes, and isolated threats. A few individuals were identified as possible suspects based on circumstantial associations, but no physical evidence tied any person to a deliberate act. The lack of a clear mechanism, no detonator, no residue, no confirmed access point, made prosecution impossible. Yet the dismissal of sabotage also conveniently avoided scrutiny of design choices. If the disaster was an attack, then the system was a victim. If it was an accident, then the system itself was at fault.